Good evening. In the complex and often brutal calculus of modern warfare, sometimes the most decisive factor isn't firepower, but geography, weather, and the element of surprise. Tonight's top story begins on a frigid night in eastern Ukraine, a region hardened by years of conflict. The date was November 11th, 2025. A severe early winter storm had descended upon the Svyatogorsk Ridge, a rugged spine of hills that has long served as a natural barrier. The storm was relentless, plunging temperatures to a punishing -15 degrees Fahrenheit. Fierce gale-force winds howled through a narrow mountain pass, a geological choke point known locally as the Wolf's Jaw. Visibility dropped to near zero, turning the landscape into a frozen, desolate corridor of rock and ice. It was through this unforgiving canyon that a massive Russian armored convoy, nearly 3 miles long, was attempting to navigate. Their objective: to reinforce the contested city of Lyman. The vehicles crawled forward, their heavy steel frames groaning under the intense cold, engines straining against the biting wind and deepening snow. They believed the brutal weather and the darkness of 3 a.m. offered them protection from attack, a shield of anonymity against drones and satellites. But their route contained a fatal flaw. For a stretch of nearly 2 miles, the road narrowed, with sheer cliffs on one side and a steep, impassable drop-off on the other. There were no exits, no alternate paths, no room to maneuver. A natural bottleneck, one that Ukrainian intelligence had not only identified, but had been studying for weeks, anticipating this very move. The convoy was a high-value target. 72 vehicles, a mix of tanks, armored personnel carriers, and supply trucks, carried over 160,000 anti-tank mines toward Lyman, a $10 million lifeline intended to fortify Russian positions. Instead, it was rolling directly into a meticulously prepared trap. The ambush on the Svyatogorsk Ridge was not an act of spontaneous opportunity. It was the result of meticulous and patient intelligence gathering. For 17 consecutive nights, Ukrainian reconnaissance teams tracked a single column, blending advanced technology with old-fashioned observation. Every transit recorded, every vehicle cataloged, every turn logged. Orlan-style drones upgraded for -22 Fahrenheit kept watch through the storm. AI-assisted mapping learned the timing, average speed, and precise route. Confident in distant Buk M3 and S-400 coverage, Russia fell into a habit. The narrowest stone funnel, just over 3 meters, would turn one disabled hull into total gridlock. Planners found a brief, predictable gap in air defense coverage during missile reload cycles. The entire operation was engineered around that window, made possible by the enemy's unwavering routine. At 3:12 a.m., the first phase began. It was not an attack with missiles or artillery, but a sophisticated act of deception. Each micro-drone carried a thermal module releasing warm air at 125 degrees. Cold winds pulled the heat upward, twisting it into long, flowing signatures. To sensors, a ghost brigade materialized across the storm. Within seconds, distant batteries saw an entire formation where none existed. Orders flew. 10 heavy missiles roared toward phantoms. Minutes later, decoys disintegrated. Thermal embers flickered out. To the radar crews, it looked like a clean kill. Meanwhile, blinded by whiteout and unaware their cover had fired at ghosts, the real convoy dragged itself deeper into the canyon. So that was phase 1. The first phase of the operation had been a success. Decoy drones, launched minutes earlier, had baited the Russian S-400 batteries into firing. Now, with their missile tubes empty and their radar systems cycling through a vulnerable multi-minute reload sequence, the critical window of opportunity was open. The trap was set. At 3:19 a.m., thermal sensors confirmed the lead vehicle of the armored convoy had reached the narrowest point of the Chechen Pass. This specific choke point had been identified weeks prior through satellite imagery and analysis of historical troop movements. The road here was just over 3 meters wide, a treacherous shelf of ice-slicked asphalt carved into the mountainside. There was no room for a tank to turn around, and attempting to reverse the entire column on the treacherous ice would be perilous, if not impossible. At 3:23 a.m., with the convoy perfectly positioned, the quiet order was given. Phase 2. Attack. From camouflage positions on the high ground, 28 FPV Hunter drones lifted into the storm. Each carried a 2.2-pound shaped charge, a small but potent warhead designed to penetrate armor. Every drone was assigned to a specific vehicle in the column, its target designated and locked before launch. Their autonomous guidance systems had memorized the terrain, with pre-plotted routes accounting for the jagged rock, the steep inclines, and the swirling wind patterns unique to the canyon. They didn't attack from high altitude, where they might be spotted. Instead, they dove like hawks, using the terrain and the blizzard for cover, striking from extremely close range to maximize accuracy and impact. At 3:28, the first drone hit its mark. It struck the lead T-80 tank directly on its turret ring, a known structural weakness. The focused blast didn't destroy the tank outright, but it severed the hydraulic lines, spinning the 46-ton hull sideways and jamming the turret. The disabled vehicle now formed a perfect, immovable barricade, completely blocking the road. Behind it, the icy surface turned driver panic into brutal physics. The second vehicle in the column slammed into the first, and a chain reaction rippled backward. One collision became many. Within 11 seconds, over 1,400 tons of armor and equipment had jammed the pass, a tangled wreck of steel. The trap was closed. With the column immobilized, the remaining drones shifted their focus, bypassing the now helpless combat vehicles to sever the convoy's nervous system. The command and control and electronic warfare assets located further back. The ambush had entered its final, decisive stage. For soldiers trapped in the pass, the line between chaos and catastrophe vanished. A fuel truck ignited, engulfing nearby vehicles. An ammo cook-off blew a turret skyward into the cliff before it crashed back down. Temperatures surged past 2,000 degrees, melting aluminum and warping steel. Thick black smoke smothered visibility to inches. Radios screeched, hydraulics burst. Turrets couldn't traverse. Infantry slipped under constant metal rain. The command vehicle burned at over 1,900 degrees. Comms vaporized. A silent blackout followed. No orders, no coordination, no escape. Attempts to reverse failed. One APC cracked its suspension, another triggered a devastating blast. By 3:46 a.m., it was no longer a battle. It was a complete dismantling. The mountain finished the job. At 5:10 a.m., first light revealed the true scale of destruction. Not a battlefield, but a graveyard of steel. 34 primary vehicles, none operational. Over 1,400 tons of armor strewn across a road the length of 2 football fields. Satellite signatures peaked near 2.6 gigajoules, foundry-level heat. The command vehicle annihilated, comms fried. The Lyman Sector Brigade seized up. Analysts called it a 72-hour command vacuum. Artillery had no targeting. 8 supply convoys halted. By noon, Ukrainian mechanized units advanced over 4 miles with minimal resistance. Despite censorship, footage spread, and a phrase took hold: "The ridge eats armor." One intercepted transmission read, "We did not lose a road, we lost a direction of the war." The frozen canyon became a symbol of catastrophic failure. In the quiet aftermath, as Ukrainian survey teams move among the frozen wrecks, the scale of the operation becomes clear. What happened here was more than a successful ambush. It was a lesson written in steel and snow. The ambush was a clear tactical victory, but its true impact rippled far beyond the canyon, sending shockwaves through Russian command. It stands as a powerful case study in how precision, patience, and superior intelligence can systematically dismantle brute force. The operation wasn't a gamble. It was the result of a meticulous intelligence cycle. Weeks of observation confirmed the enemy's routine, turning their predictability into a vulnerability. The first lesson is the tyranny of terrain. In the right environment, even the most powerful armor is fragile. The canyon walls didn't just restrict movement, they created a kill box, a natural funnel that stripped the column of its ability to maneuver or disperse. For the convoy, predictability became a fatal flaw. The second lesson is the power of asymmetric technology. Small, inexpensive tools, FPV drones and simple thermal decoys, neutralized assets worth tens of millions. The decoys confused enemy sensors, drawing fire and creating chaos, while the precision-guided drones acted as surgical instruments, disabling lead and rear vehicles to trap the entire column. The convoy's swift destruction and the subsequent 72-hour communications blackout handed the strategic initiative to Ukraine. This paralysis allowed Ukrainian forces to reposition and consolidate gains elsewhere, capitalizing on the confusion and fear sown deep within the Russian command structure. For Russia, the lesson was brutal. Over-reliance on a single, predictable route, driven by logistical ease, created the very opening their enemy needed. They failed to account for their opponent's capacity to wait, watch, and choose the perfect moment to strike. Ultimately, this story is about the triumph of ingenuity over assumption. It's a stark reminder that victory often belongs to the side that can adapt faster than its adversary, turning the opponent's strengths, like armor and firepower, into liabilities. The most effective weapon is not always the biggest gun, but the sharpest mind. It's the ability to see the battlefield not just as it is, but for what it can become, to analyze every variable, from weather patterns to enemy psychology. In the end, the mountain did not take a side. It was impartial, unforgiving, and it became the instrument of a well-laid plan, amplifying the impact of a small, determined force and proving that in modern warfare, the smartest fighter wins.